Okay, so welcome back to the final part of this 4-part pace series that we've been doing. And this is the one I've been most excited about. It's margin time. Now, I love fishing pace in the margins. I've caught so many fish down the edge on pace. I've got so much confidence in it. Once you get it going and you get it right, it is lightning quick. It is just a brilliant way to fish. You catch massive fish on it. It's super simple. I just love it. But as with all the other sort of free videos that we've done on pace, there's more to it than meets the eye. Now, first up, the bait. The bait's a little bit different. We'll show you the plumbing up and everything in a sec, but the bait's a little bit different, and I bring ground bait into play. So I've got some coarse carp, which is a really heavy mixer. By that I mean I can get plenty of water in it and it feels heavy in your hand. So when you put it in, you don't get loads of cloud or anything, it goes straight to the bottom. Now, I really do believe in ground bait down the edge. I've caught so many fish with it. I just use it as like a magnet. I don't put loads in. I've only mixed up half a bag today. But what I do is use it as, like, I call it my magnet. I feel like you have to have it in your swim, but sometimes the fish can get a little bit preoccupied with it. So what I like to do, I like to feed it short. I'll show you all about that in a minute, but I like to feed it short of where I'm going to fish and then fish beyond it with my normal conventional hemp and pace. So that's what we've got for feed. We've got the ground bait, which is coarse carp. We've got some hemp, and then we've got our paste. And those three little options allow me to feed it in a little bit of a different way. That's it. I just found that if I just go in with the hemp down the edge, it's never quite as good as when I've got some ground bait down there. So I feel like it is important, but I like to feed it in a certain way. So let's get down to the rig. It's, again, I've got my Old Faithful pot on there. I've got the pink zip, and then I've upgraded my line now, because you've got to imagine this is the last hour, last 45 minutes of your match. I'm trying to up the ante. I'm trying to make things happen. I've just got 0.23 exact, straight through to a size 10 again. And then I've got one of my beautiful little JC margin pace floats. Now, I've done loads of videos on these. You all know what they're about by now, but if you haven't seen them, the reason why they're so thin, they've got a lovely thin tip, is when you're fishing in the margins, you get a lot of false indications. You know, those fish come in, they root around, and you get a lot of stabs and stuff on your float when them fish are moving around. Now, the problem is with that, every time that happens and you've got a traditional pace float on with a buoyant tip, every time that float gets jabbed against, because obviously there's a lot of fish in not a lot of water, every time that happens, your pace gets knocked off the hook and you're in and out all the time. Whereas with this, because the bristle's so thin, every time a fish brushes into the line, or you know, you get a liner or a little false indication, the float will go under, but then it'll just slowly come back up, because there's so little resistance with this. It just slides under and then comes back up, and your pace stays on the end. It's a deadly way to fish. It means that you're fishing a lot more with this than you are with a traditional pace float. There's no shot down the line, and it's set up, I'm plumbed up, and I found 24 inches, and I've set my rig at 25 inches, so it's a little bit over depth, and the float will sit on a little bit of an angle like that. And as you get your indications, you'll see it in a minute when I start fishing, you'll start getting all these little twitches and bits and bobs. It'll stab under, and eventually it'll just wham under, because you get such confident bites with this because there's no resistance whatsoever. But how we're going to fish it is a little bit interesting. Now, I fish in the margins. I'm going to put a 45 gram plummet on. I'm going to show you what I'm going to find. Now, you can fish this in really shallow water. You can fish it in up to sort of 3 foot with this float. But I've always found like 2 foot, between 18 inches and 2 foot is about, you know, 18 inches and 24 inches is about right. And what I like to do, I like to feed 2 spots. So what I'll do, I'll try and find that depth just here on the top kit. So just here, I can find that spot. So just there, it's a lovely little flat. If anything, a gradual slope, but very, very flat. Lovely little spot to fish, that is. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to feed all my ground bait there on that little flat spot close in. And if I catch some fish there, great. But what I actually intend to do is fish with hemp past, a section past, exactly the same depth, just there. Now, what I found with margin carp, especially with pace fishing, they love the ground bait in the swim, but actually catching them over it is quite difficult. Especially on this, like this is a long straight margin, the fish will come along the bank to get to me. And I've just found that it can be a little bit tricky to get them to actually take the bait, whether that's maggots, worms or whatever. So what I like to do, I like to have 2 spots. So I'll actually fish there, top kit and 1, but I'll put all my ground bait in here. And I've just found that is a lovely way to fish. It keeps things nice and clean, nice and tidy. So let's get on it and get straight in and put some bait in, because I don't think it's going to take us long. Now, bit of housekeeping. It is now 2:30. I think 2 o'clock onwards is, you know, fair game when it comes to margin fishing. I think any time before 2 o'clock I believe is too early, but 2 o'clock and on, be my guest, feed it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in, I'm not going to put a full pot of ground bait in, I'm just going to put in half a pot of ground bait just on this top kit here. And that's just going to go in there. And like I say, if I catch some fish there, great. But they know it's there. And even if they don't want to come that close into me, which they will at some point, I'll catch them there, I know I will. But even though, you know, they might not want to come and fish and sit there and be really happy and confidently feeding, there will be a section past where I'll feed. And it's like they can't resist trying to get to you. It's bizarre how it works, but it just works. And I've caught loads of fish with this feeding method. It just seems to work ever so well. And then what I'm going to do is go in with hemp, so a decent dollop of hemp, and I'm just going to put brown paste on to start with, but I have got a bit of a slight twist this time. I've got some red paste knocked up. Now I've found that in the margins, red paste can be an absolute winner. I think, especially later in the session, when they're really having it and the water's colouring up, that red paste, I don't know if it just stands out, something happens and they love it. So let's just accurately place that. So this is hemp. So we fed ground bait short, which I like to call my magnet. So the fish know that's there, they'll try and get to that. But to get to that, they've kind of got to come past my little trap of hemp that's past it. And I just found it's a lovely clean way of fishing. So we've put that in there, 2 foot deep, and now we've just got to wait. And you'll see, hopefully on the float cam, my float is sat on an angle. It looks horrible, it looks all wrong compared to how we, you know, used to fishing with dotted down floats and bulks and stuff. But we're free lining the bait here, or as close to free lining as possible. And trust me, that'll just wallop under. When one takes that, you'll know about it. It'll just absolutely wallop under. Just get me brew. Now it'd be interesting to see how long it takes for this to actually kick into gear, because ultimately we've left it till 2:30, which, like I say, is a good time of day to start edge fishing. And I don't like to build it like a lot of anglers do. I know a lot of anglers will think I want to go on the edge at 3 o'clock and then start feeding it at 2 and feed it for an hour before going on it. I don't really believe in that myself. I like to feed it and go straight on it. That's just how I've always had more success. So the first fish has just come in there. Little indication there. Now interestingly, there's already one just swirled on my ground bait here. Like I say, that they don't mind feeding close to you on these carp waters, providing you do it at the right time of day. I think they're quite comfortable, and what happens is when you catch them close in, you often catch them really quick, not because you're fishing close in, but because there's less fish there, so you don't get loads of indications and stuff. Oh, that was a good bite. It's absolutely buried. Now it's a good idea when you're fishing top kit and one, to always have a spare section to hand. Really good idea that is. I don't think we're going to need it on this fish, but sometimes you do. And that was just a... Hopefully you saw how positive that bite was. We were getting an odd little wiggle and a little wobble, and then all of a sudden it just buried. Absolutely unmissable. And this is where you can do your real big damage in matches. Edge fish. Look at that. Straight away. Okay, so that's fish number 1, and that was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? But we had a bit of a camera malfunction, so we had a bit of a harsh cut there, but never mind. Right, we're not going to top up any more ground bait. I've seen, while I was playing that fish, there's been another one coming over that ground bait, so for me there's plenty of like that attractive ground bait there, so we're just going to concentrate on feeding this hemp to start with. So again, there's no need to be shy. Half of that pot full of hemp is exactly what's needed. And then we're just gonna... It's very tempting to get giddy with everything when it's, you know, you've got a swim full of fish. It can be very, very giddy to start piling the ground bait in. But most of my success with this has been when I only feed like 3 or 4 pots of ground bait over the last 2 hours. I always think, you've got to remember, every time you strike a bit of paste off, you're effectively feeding a bit of ground bait in your swim, so you've got to be very careful you can just get them going nuts in the edge when you're fishing like this. So I think it's a really important part of the equation, that ground bait, but it is important to not get giddy with it. I think that's a really important lesson. But as soon as there's no signs of fish, like if there's nothing on this close in one, if I'm not seeing any swirls, I'm not getting any indications, then I'll put a bit more in, just half a pot. But the longer I can go without feeding more ground bait and I can get bites just on the hemp, I'm well happy doing that. It's just about being patient. Reading that float, and like I say, that the beauty of the margin pace float is it gives you time to think about what you're striking at. You know, you get them, like that last one was just I didn't really get too many like little funny jabs or anything. It just wallops under. You've got to strike at that. But like now I'm getting like little knocks, little lifts, little dips, all that. You just need, look at that, you see that? So I was getting loads of little knocks and little dibs and dobs, and I've ended up catching a bream of all things in the edge. I mean, it's a good bream, but it is a bream. I mean, they're not like double figure carp, but I tell you what, big fish. Now I'm going to give it one more go before I put any more ground bait in. I'm just always mindful, but did you see how that bite develops? You know, it was little dibs and dobs, and then all of a sudden it wallops under. I might have to put see, there's a fish on my ground bait there, so it may be that I'm better off fishing over that. So we'll keep that in mind. We might try that in a minute. Give the hemp another go. Very thinking it sounds complicated, this, but trust me, fishing past, it just works really well. Especially on long margins like this. It's quite a long straight margin. There's nothing really to fish up against, as in it's dead shallow tight into the bank here, so it's too shallow, I think. When it's like this and it's like a long, like a beach style edge, I always think it's quite hard to catch when it's like this, because the fish get a long run up to you and they can just spread that ground bait everywhere. Whereas if you're fishing up against a stump or something where you can get that ground bait wedged in there, you can catch them against it, fishing over it. But this is like a long straight one. And I can see them, even past where there's no bait at all, I can see them tailing and stuff. That's a good bite. And this is what it's like, you know. People often say, like, oh, it's not fast enough, the pace, but trust me, once you get it going, there's no better way, I don't think. Like, I've had it so many times when I've tried to fish worms and maggots and stuff, and they just swim around your rig all day and you don't actually convert anything. You just get frustrating liners. That doesn't really happen with the pace. They just come in and they think it's that ground bait that you're feeding. You know, they just come in and just take the lot up. With total confidence. And then with this rig, there's no shot in the water. Like, I've seen fish sort of spooking off the tight line and the bulk of shot in the swim. Not a problem with this. Again. Now I'm just gonna, now we've had 2 carp and a bream off that one feed. I'm just gonna put in another little dollop of ground bait. Again, just not even a third of a pot. And this ground bait's so heavy, you don't have to squeeze it or anything. It goes straight to the bottom. Look at that, it goes straight in, lovely. Like I say, we might catch one over that in a minute. But for as long as I can catch as cleanly as this over that bit of hemp, then I just will. Just keep it going in. Not to put the red on yet. Red paste. Because I feel like every time there's one come in so far, we've pretty much nailed him, I think. We've not had any mishaps yet. In fact, it's going remarkably smoothly. Now, one thing I don't do, which I think I see a lot of people do, is feeding both sides. Now, I'm not saying I won't fish both sides, but what I like to do, I like to fish them one at a time, if that makes sense. So I'll fish this side as long as I can. And then if I mess it up, I get giddy with the bait, or they become, you often get don't know, I like to call it like margin fatigue. Like you go in and you get like this, you get like a really good spell, and all of a sudden they like wise up a little bit, as if that impact of you putting the bait in is gone. Oh jeez, that was an aggressive bite and I missed it. Don't know how I felt it on the tip. You get like a margin fatigue type thing, where it's like they suss you out. Now sometimes, rather than wasting time trying to get to grips with it, I sometimes just put the plummet on and then just start again down the other side, and you'll get like that initial burst again, like that impact of them coming into your swim for the first time, and you get like that quick run of fish again. And I've had that so many times at the venues I go to. Look at that. I mean, how quick do you want it? You know, you get that initial burst again, and that's why I don't feed both of them at the same time, because you don't get that. You don't get that initial. It's the initial hit that gets them really excited in the edge, I think. Which is why it's important to leave it till the right time of day. This one's pulling hard. On the Vo 23, we've got to add the sections really. Soon turn them though. Get them under control on the old pink. But I mean, look, how quick was that? I mean, it's just deadly. And like I say, people worry about it, but with this little float on, feeding it in this way, it just works. I mean, this is a real big fish as well. And the beautiful thing about it is it's not like other methods where you've got to feed like 2 kilos of ground bait or anything like that. Like literally half a bag of ground bait, so half a kilo is enough, because you only need like 3 or 4 potfuls for that last hour and a half. That's a real big fish, that one. Oh, he's a proper paste fish. I mean, if you can go in and get a fish like this within a few seconds of your rig bin in the swim, you're gonna be doing all right, aren't you? I mean, that is a. I'm gonna try picking them up, but I mean that is a proper pace fish, isn't it? I mean, look at that thing, getting on for double figures. If you can just go in and roll that paste in and catch one like that within 20 seconds or whatever that took, you just, I mean, what's not to love about it? I'm gonna catch you one more. Famous last words, isn't it? In fact, no, I'm gonna catch one more on this. And then for the sake of the video, I'm going to go over the ground bait and see if we can't catch one over that as well. But I hope you understand my reasoning for still putting the ground bait in, because I do think it is plays an important part. You know, it is, I call it my magnet. You know, that is ultimately what's attracting the fish. And then we're just using the hemp as like a clean way of actually getting it to pick your hook bait out. And I've tried it without the ground bait and it just isn't quite as good. You still catch, obviously, but it just isn't quite as good. You still need that little bit of ground bait in the swim, because for whatever reason they just love it, don't they? They feed so confidently with it. I think it just colours the water up. They know it's there. So we'll try catch just one more on this. Hopefully you'll get to see the float. I mean, that last bite, I mean, just incredible. As with all the good ways to catch fish, it is ultimately quite a simple. You know, the rig's simple, there's not even any shot on it. It's strong. It's all about just learning to read that bristle and the float. Knowing what to strike at, what to leave alone, making sure your bait's right, as in having that gluten in there to keep you. Make sure you've always got something on the hook. And then being quite sensible with your feed. I think that's being positive but sensible. I think that's got my float stood up. I think that's probably the most important part. One there. Oh, one just spooked. Actually got a GoPro in the swim. They don't see, every time they brush against that, they get the ump. They're not actually going as mad over the ground bait as what I was expecting. So you might even be able to catch them over that quite nicely. I'm sort of getting to the point now where you could probably put your hook bait in a ever so slightly shallower water. There's quite a few coming in now, and just tweaking it and maybe just going a little bit closer to the bank. Help you like select one now, I think. Been conscious not to go in too shallow a water of late, because you know, a lot of the fishing I've been doing, it's been noticeable that the fish haven't wanted to come into really shallow water, but maybe they do today. I just foul hooked one and lost it, and it just feels like the swim's sort of getting away from me a little bit, so I'm just going to have a little spell just fishing in close over that ground bait, just to sort of let it calm down again. And this is what I was mentioning about the leaving a side clean, because I've had this on a lot of venues, like it just, you get a bit of a spell where they go a bit crazy. And sometimes you just got to move or change something. Look. So because we've come closer in, there's less fish there, because they don't want to be right next to you really. And I might just catch one or two there over that ground bait, and then they'll go again. But it'll just give that hemp time to. I've probably put too much hemp in now, and just fishing here for 10 minutes might give me a chance to clear a bit more of that hemp away. You know, they can eat that without too much of a worry. Ooh. Oh, I thought I was going to have to add a piece on them, but I might get away with it. But that, like I say, that feeding it two spots like that, and I've just gone in and caught one straight away, just shows you like how that works. It's another good one. Oh yeah, a real big boy. Perfect one to end on. And it just shows you that having that, like I say, even though we're only fishing top kit and one, having two spots within the spot. Sounds complicated, but it works really well. I just love this elastic, because it's powerful, but it is forgiving like that fish. Even though I was only holding a top kit, that fish took off at speed, and yeah, I went for another section, but I didn't need to add it, and it just gave me enough just to turn the fish and get him in, and that is the perfect pace fish to end this little 4-part series. I mean, that has taken that again, disgorgeous job really, right down the hatch. Super wet paste, taken with total confidence, and that's getting on for £10. That one, an absolute beauty of a pace fish. That is exactly what we're looking for with this bait. Hope you enjoyed that. 4 super helpful videos, I'm sure you'll agree. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Nufish channel, and we'll see you again really soon where we'll be doing something else.